So guys, how do you find the volume of a sphere? Um, it's 4/3 times pi. We know what pi is. What's pi? 3.14. And then this is the radius to the third power. So literally, you're just looking for the radius of a ball. That's it. You're just looking for the radius of a ball. So here's the radius right here. Now, the tricky part for this new thing that we're going to look at is the answer can be found in two different ways. In terms of pi, there we go, we fixed the pi symbol. And then what about this one right here? To the nearest tenth, use 3.144 pi. Okay, sometimes I spell it just pi. So how can I show it this way to you? Well, we're going to go find the volume of a sphere with the radius is 5. In other words, if this part was 5 centimeters, and we're going to use this formula, so let's rewrite it together. So volume equals 4/3 times pi times the radius to the third power. Well, we know that the radius is 5 centimeters. And so we understand that that is going to be represented by the r. So this r is going to become a 5. So let's go through and let's rewrite this with what we need. Now, when they want you to go to the nearest tenth, do you see this right here? To the nearest tenth, use 3.14 for pi. So this is going to go to 3.14. And we just plug it into our calculator and we're finished. We have our volume. It's that simple. So 4/3 times the pi is 3.14, and then the radius is 5. I mean, they told us the radius is 5, so that r becomes a 5, but wait, it's going to be to the third power. Once you have that in, it's just a matter of rounding to the very first decimal place. So there we have it. It's 523.3 repeating. So what's that going to round to? Point what? 0.3. And since this is centimeters, what are we going to write for the unit? Centimeters cubed would be correct. Now, that is very similar to what we've done with our other volume formulas, right? Now, it's this next step that is a little bit different, but quite frankly, it makes it easier. Do we like easier? I like easier. And in fact, you have to understand, is that the exact answer for what we just did here for a sphere with a radius of 5 centimeters? No, we rounded it, correct? We rounded it. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make it perfect. It will not be rounded. It will be exactly something. And so technically, instead of writing an equal sign here, because we rounded it, we should just kind of put like an approximation symbol. That means it's about. But I will never take off points for that. But you know, just to be clear, it's not exactly equal. Now, let's come over here, and it says in terms of pi. So in other words, we're going to solve this same one, a sphere with a radius of 5 centimeters. We're going to use the same formula. So can we just copy this formula right here? Now, again, what did we say the radius is? What did we say the radius was? 5. So this r becomes a 5. And attached to it is the 3 there. Now, we can put that in parentheses. The 4/3 would just come straight down, wouldn't it? And I accidentally colored in the 4/3 green. Really, I'm wanting the pi to be green, though. But here's the thing. The 4/3 will come down, and it will multiply the 5. Do you know what we're going to do with this pi, though? We're just going to carry it off to the end and just let it sit there. We're not going to do anything with it. So you literally just pull it down to the end. Just push it back to the end. That's it. What are you talking about? Well, we know that the pi is going to be multiplying all this stuff, but we're not going to say multiply it by 3.14. We're not going to multiply it by any more decimals. We're literally just going to let it sit by the end and say it will multiply the answer, but we're just going to let it sit with the answer, kind of like a variable, like 2 times x, something like that. And so now, can you guys tell me what's 4/3 times 5 to the third power? Well, once you type this one in and you saw, hey, it's 166 2/3, that's exact. We're not having to round anything, are we? So how about we just go ahead and we say, hey, the volume is 166 2/3 pi. What was the units again? What was the unit? Centimeters cubed. So if that's got you to where you need to be, I'd like to come down here and talk about this part real fast, and I'm going to let you two do this, but this is the first one where I gave you a diameter. Well, what's a diameter? A diameter is where we put two radiuses together, and it stretches all the way across a circle, right? So how can I find the radius? We need the radius. We know what the formula is. Can we go ahead and write down the formula? We know this is the formula. They gave us a diameter. We need a radius. It is with an R. So how can we find the radius? Literally, you will just take this diameter, divide it by 2. 17 divided by 2 is 8.5, so that radius is 8.5. This radius right here is going to be 8.5. We need to put this into the nearest tenth for this version of it, so that means that your pi needs to be what? 3.14. When we come over here and we say, how do we work it out in terms of pi? We're not going to use anything for pi. We're just going to slide that to the end and let it sit there. So let's go see what you get for this one. All right, so we've color coded it here. What did we put in for what did we put in for pi? I just said it. 3.14. Our radius, which we had to actually work for. Anytime they give you a diameter, you just divide it by 2. Boom, there it is in red, right? And so I've already heard the answer. Somebody said it. Yeah, 2,571 point. And then it's a matter of, is it this? Now, if your decimals are off, but you're pretty much like at 2571 or something real close to it, did you use the pi button on the calculator, or did you use 3.14? Okay, and so that's one thing you want to make sure. But what's this going to round to, though? 2,571.1. And there's our answer. So let's go do the exact same sphere, but this time we don't want it to the nearest tenth. This time they would say, please solve it in terms of pi. And so when we go and put all of this in, yeah, thank you. You guys are on it today. Actually, it's inches. I was going off of the centimeters, wasn't I? This one is inches, so it does not need to be centimeters.